Welcome to Rouse Rising. My name is Katie, and in today's video, I am going to be sharing with you a meal prep for a low-income meal or for a frugal meal using up some of your staples or some of your leftovers, whatever you have. We are going to be cooking today in our cast iron skillet. So I've got my cast iron skillet on my stovetop now, and I'm putting in a bit of coconut oil to get it nice and warmed up so that I can start heating all of the food through. I found this 2-pound ham at the grocery store, and we are going to use this $8 2-pound ham to make multiple meals. But in today's video, I'm just going to use about a third of this ham, maybe a little bit less, to cook this evening's meal. We are a family of 7, and during this time of our life, we are living on a low income. My husband recently retired from the military, and we are between paychecks, so to speak, and we are also between career fields. So during this time that we have prepared for, we are being extra frugal and really trying to stretch our meals. So I have cut 3 small slices of ham, and I'm going to dice these up into tinier pieces so that everybody gets a bit of ham in their skillet meal. We are post-Christmas, pre-New Year's, and there are a lot of sales in the store right now. So if you can afford to take advantage of those sales and stock up on some items, now is a good time. All of the hams were on sale. They had chuck roasts on sale, all sorts of beef and pork cuts, as well as some chicken on sale at the grocery store. Because we are on a limited budget right now, I was very frugal in my selections, and I thought that this ham would really serve our family well, stretching between multiple meals. So 1/3 of it is going to be used for tonight's dinner, and we'll use another 1/3 of it to make a breakfast scramble, and then we'll use the other 1/3 in a potato and ham bean soup. I rummaged around in my fridge, and I have half an onion from 2 days ago that I'm going to use in this skillet meal as well. And then back there in my colander is some small yellow peppers, and those are going to get diced up and added to this dish as well. You can take basic ingredients and really make a wonderful meal. And all it takes is some creativity with your seasonings, your spices, and with the types of fats that you use in your meals. You can really pull together some simple ingredients to make a delicious, filling meal for your family. So I added to my skillet the onions and the ham, and those are just going to saute while I slice up the rest of my ingredients. Back there in a bowl, I have some leftover baked potatoes. I bake my potatoes in the pressure cooker, so they're not actually getting baked. I pressure cook my potatoes in my Instant Pot, and it works really well. It takes about 30 minutes total time for the Instant Pot to heat up and to pressure cook the potatoes, and within 30 minutes you can have a baked potato meal on the table. So when I do that, I add as many baked potatoes as I can to my 6-quart Instant Pot. And the leftover baked potatoes I use in skillet dishes like this one that we're making tonight. The potatoes are already par cooked so that all they need to do is warm up and brown up in the skillet. If often you find yourself in a rush, you might consider picking one day of the week to meal prep a bunch of different foods or ingredients so that you can throw together quick meals like I'm doing here today. Some of the things that we like to prep ahead of time is boiled eggs. We like to steam a bunch of rice ahead. We bake our potatoes. Oftentimes when I am preparing a meal, I will double or triple batch ingredients in that meal or pre-prep ingredients in that meal extra so that I can have ingredients prepped for a future meal. That helps me out a whole lot. So For instance, tonight, this is a fast meal. This is something that I threw together in under 30 minutes because I had some ingredients that were already pre-made. The ham was already pre-cooked, as well as the potatoes already being par-baked. And when you have ingredients in your refrigerator that are ready to go, you can whip something up really quickly for your family that is healthy and fast. I believe it's a misconception that folks think it is expensive to eat healthy. And while it is expensive to eat organic food products, it is not expensive to eat healthy. It just takes a little bit of creativity. But if you can buy the raw ingredients and take those ingredients from their whole foods form and turn them into something edible and delicious, that's going to save you a lot of money. You can see in the background there, I've got my grain mill and I've got my grains in the jars. And buying the grains in their whole grain form, in their whole berry form, is more economical. It's a little bit more time consuming to produce the flour, but in the grand scheme of things, it is more cost effective in the long run for my large family to mill our own flour, and that is going to save us pennies on the dollar, and all of that adds up. The same when we buy our bulk foods. We're going to save more money when we can buy items in bulk quantity. 3 years ago, I began my bulk food buying journey, and I started that with Azure Standard because where we live in this remote area, we don't have access to very many bulk food suppliers that have quality organic or non-GMO foods. So when I discovered Azure Standard, I began stocking my home with whole foods in bulk form so that my family would be able to eat the things that we're used to eating during a time when we have a financial gap or where we are experiencing a low income time period. So we were able to prepare years in advance because we knew this day was going to come. How I prepared was the only way I could prepare, and the only way I had control over the situation was to purchase food and store away food for this time. So a lot of people think that when you prepare food or when you prep food, when you store food for long-term food storage, that you're doing it for a zombie apocalypse or some kind of catastrophic event. While that's not always the case, the reason why we began prepping our pantry and stocking and stockpiling food was because we knew that there was going to be a financial situation in our future that we needed to be able to provide food and nourishing meals for our family during that gap. And so I started with Azure Standard and purchasing a 25-pound bag of oatmeal, of rolled oats, and then I would store that in a bucket and we would start eating our oatmeal from that bucket of oats. And then the next month I might buy a 25-pound or a 50-pound bag of rice, and then that's our rice for the next 6 months to a year. And you can just start small, buying a 25-pound bag of grain here, a 25-pound bag of corn grits there, and start building up your food supply slowly so that you are prepared should there be an illness where you can't work or you lose a job or there's some kind of financial instability in your life. You know that you're prepared and that in a pinch you can feed your family these foods. Having a well-stocked pantry is really going to do wonders for your meal prepping and when times get tight. I know that when I go to my pantry and I can pull out some oatmeal and I can add cinnamon. If I have an apple and I only have one apple and I have 5 kids, I can chop that apple up and add it to the oatmeal and cook it with some cinnamon, add a little bit of sugar or maple syrup to it, and that one apple is going to be stretched with the oatmeal, and it's going to feed my 5 kids. So you can take things like these 3 potatoes, and you can add a few pieces of ham and some leftover onion and a little bit of pepper, and you can feed 7 people with a skillet meal. And this is going to be filling and satisfying for everybody. It's got fat in it, protein, it's got a little bit of vegetables and lots of carbohydrates. It's going to be warm and filling, and with the right seasonings, it's going to have a ton of flavor. Some of my favorite seasonings to add to my skillet meals, or really to all my meals, is this poultry seasoning. It was recommended to me by a subscriber about a year ago, and I have been loving using poultry seasoning in my dishes. It adds so much flavor. Also, this Redmond's Real Salt seasoned salt is another family favorite. We got the big bulk container of it, and it is organic, and it is so good. We use it in fried chicken and chicken fried steak, fried oysters. We like to use it in the batters of those dishes, and just using it in soups and stews and steaks. Oh my, it is so good. I've been using it on everything, and you can get 15% off of Redmond's Real Salt products with my code and link down below in this video's description. They make everything from toothpaste, face masks, seasonings, herbs, spices, blends, salts, different kinds of salts, kosher salt, you name it. Check out the Redmond's Real Salt link down below in my video's description and get your 15% off bulk salt products now. Your well-stocked pantry will include a well-stocked seasoning cabinet and spice cabinet, spice rack, whatever you prefer to call it. That is going to help elevate all of your meals, is if you have the right seasonings. And as you build your stash of herbs and spices and use those in your meals, you're going to learn how to use them. You're going to love using them. There are 2 ingredients in this house we do not skimp on, and that is salt and fat. You can take a plain piece of meat and slather it in some butter and salt, and it is going to be the most amazing piece of meat you've ever tasted in your life. So make sure that when you're cooking, that you're using your seasonings, make sure that you are salting to taste. Make sure that you are using fat, because that is going to add so much depth of flavor to your meals. Make sure that you're using gelatinous broths, those broths that you make from your leftover chicken carcass or your leftover beef bones. If you go to the butcher and you get some soup bones, however it is, if you make your broth at home, your broth is going to be so much more packed full of flavor, nutrition. You're going to save so much money, because let's face it, the cartons of broth at the grocery store, they're running about $4 for a quart. And you can take your leftover bones and carcasses and your tough, gristly bits of steaks and meats and things like that, and you can throw them into a pot and render them down into a delicious, nourishing broth that you can then use in your rice dishes and your grain dishes. You can use them in your soups. There's a lot of ways to use your broth. You can drink on it daily, add in your herbs, make sure you're getting all the nutrition in your diet. These are simple things that you can incorporate into your meals that are going to stretch your foods and provide you with delicious nutrition and lots of flavor. Having a well-stocked pantry means that in a snowstorm or some kind of catastrophic event, or if there's a natural disaster, something of that nature, I am going to have meals for my family. I'm going to be able to prepare food because I have dried goods. I know how to start a fire, and I have pots and pans and access to clean water. Those are the basics that every household should have, and you should have an emergency backup plan for food in your home in case of an emergency, in case of a job loss, in case of some kind of natural disaster. Do you have the means to prepare your family food? Do you have food stored in a way that it's going to last? Do you have food stored in a way that it's going to be preserved well? Do you have enough food stored to feed your family for a few weeks or a few months? Take a look through your pantry, and next time you go to the grocery store, consider buying a large bag of rice or maybe a bulk pack of pasta. You can get a few extra bags of dried beans, and these are things that you can set aside and store properly to have in an emergency or in a food crisis situation where maybe you don't have money to buy food, but oh wait, yes, you set aside, smart person, you set aside those beans and rice for that time period. Make sure you've got something basic, if nothing else, salt, some lard in your freezer, some beans and rice, and you're gonna get through any hard time that is thrown at you. And those are basic ingredients that you can go ahead and get stocked up on now for the future, and then make sure that you're always doing FIFO, first in, first out with your food, and make sure that you are always using proper storage techniques. If you have any questions or want to look for inspiration regarding food preparation and food preparedness, I have a whole pantry stocking playlist that helps maybe give you some ideas or some guidance on how to start stocking your pantry, the top 10 items I would stock in my pantry if I'm going to begin building pantry stores. There's loads of videos on that playlist that might give you some ideas for how to start preparing food or prepping food for your family so that you can be or have food security and food preparedness in your home. In our skillet, we had the ham, onions, potatoes, and peppers. We cooked those up and added some garlic, salt, seasoned salt, and poultry seasoning. Then we topped it with some shredded cheese and put a lid on so that all of that could melt. Next, I'm just going to chop up some garnish green onions to sprinkle around the top. And we're going to get this served up to my hungry family who has been waiting patiently for this delicious cast iron skillet meal. I'm so grateful for this meal, for food, for a warm home, for my family's health and their wellness. I'm thankful that we have vehicles to drive and the vehicles have gas. I'm thankful that the heat is on and we have cozy beds to sleep in. I'm so grateful for the fire under my food that warms it through so that I can provide my family a nourishing meal. It is a time to be thankful. It is a time to renew our spirits. It is time to head into the new year prepared for what is to come in the future. I hope that you all are prepared. I hope that you are bringing in the new year with the people that you love the most. I hope that you are fed well. I hope you are warm. And I hope that you have lots of love coming towards you and radiating from you. Thank you for spending this time of your day with me. It means so much to me and to my family to have you here, a part of the Rouse Rising crew. We are so grateful for you. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!